All right, two things. First, I put an updated version of that program. It's front and back on everybody. And if you don't know the difference between the two, the updated one, I circled the number 1 at the top in the upper right hand corner. The other page, technically, if you want to, you could throw out. I was just going to grab them and throw them out. Sometimes people write on their stuff, and sometimes people are like, that's mine. And I didn't want to do that, but it's just the second one that you'll need. Okay? Now, what I want to do, this is what we're going to do. I always like this to be kind of predicated by the amount of time we have. All right? So what we're going to do right now is we're going to build the equivalent GUI of this. It'll take sometime around 10 o'clock. I don't know exactly when, but sometime around then. All right? Maybe 10, 15, whatever. And after we get done with that, what I'm going to ask is, and I'm going to give you like about an hour to do this, I'm going to ask that you try to do the next one. Because it's almost the same program as hours, minutes, seconds. Except instead of dividing it by 3600, you'll divide it by 25 to get quarters. Then you'll modulo it by 25. See what I'm saying? And that'll be a good test for yourself. And even if you struggle, it's okay. It's not a test. All right? It's where if you can see if the stuff that we're doing is starting to make sense. So I would strongly recommend that when I give you time and you work on these two, all right, when you do it, that you keep these other ones up so you can go back and forth and look at your logic. All right. Now I'm going to keep this one up because I'm actually going to be able to use a lot of this, but I'm going to start up a new Visual Studio. So I'm going to come down to the bottom here where I've got Visual Studio. I'm going to right mouse click on it, just tell it I want to open up another Visual Studio. All right. You say, well, I tried doing that, it didn't work, then raise your hand. So we're going to basically build the same program, except this time it's going to be GUI. All right? So, if you look on the screen here, I'm going to go again to create a new project. Make sure that once you do this, don't choose console. We want Windows Forms App .NET Framework. Again, if you don't see it in here, go to your search area that's up here and type in Windows Forms App. Always, always look on the screen, please. Make sure you choose C#. And make sure you choose .NET Framework, not .NET Core. All right. So I've done that. I'm going to click Next, and it's going to ask me to give it a name. Well, it's the same name as the last one, except it'll be GUI on the end instead of console. So, hours, minutes, seconds, GUI. And again, run those letters together. Don't put blank spaces in here. It's just asking for trouble. Years ago, we may even do that program in here, the one I'm about to tell you, where I used to teach, we created basically the equivalent of an invoice for an automotive company, okay? And it was called Joe's Automotive. And stupid me, I didn't tell people, so they called it Joe's Automotive. They used an apostrophe. No problem at all. Until about 2 weeks later when they brought the program up and it wouldn't run because they had that apostrophe in it. Not only that, you couldn't even go into the internal files and fix it. They had to basically, they were able to copy a lot of the stuff, but they had to create a brand new program. So don't put anything in there but letters. Just run stuff together. All right. So I've got hours, minutes, seconds, GUI. On the desktop, hours, minutes, second, GUI. I'm going to click Create. You saw this yesterday. Just like we did yesterday, once this comes up, I'm going to draw on the screen what it's going to look like. I went back to the other. There it is. So, very similar to yesterday. Okay. Now, I'll come in here and let's put in. So we've got, let's put in total seconds. And we'll input that. And then we'll have hours, minutes, seconds, and our three buttons. Calculate, clear, and exit. So I'm going to build that right now. Now, a good test for you, try to see if you can build it on your own. If you can't, it's not a problem. But just see, as you're building it, how much yours looks like mine. Remember to rename your controls. So, for example, this will be label total seconds, label hours, label minutes, label seconds, text box total seconds, text box hours, text box minutes, text box seconds, button calculate, button clear, and button exit. All right, so we have a total of what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 controls we're putting on here. Make the background any color you want, etc. We should also rename our form. All right. So grab my toolbox, and that's pinned. Good. If your toolbox is not showing, just go to View on your menu.
Well, I have the toolbox, it doesn't have
Okay, then it doesn't. Okay, all right. So I'm going to cut that back down. So that's not bad right there. Okay, so get a little bigger so I can see what's going on. Yeah. not showing, or what?
I did it. Like,
Well, look on the screen if you would. Let me stop the run here. For instance, if this is not showing, all right, you can go to View, and there's a thing down here someplace that'll say Properties window. Oh, where is it? Might be, yeah, on the very bottom. Plus, you remember you can make this, you can change the size of this too. So you can make the Properties window a lot bigger and make your Solution Explorer smaller, or vice versa, depending on what it is you have to do. I'll give you all a couple more minutes, but this is what I came up with then. This is my interface. Not beautiful, but functional. I also added the tab order. I added the Windows Start position, and I added the cancel button and the accept button. So I'm ready to start putting in some code in just a couple minutes when you are at that point. Except I didn't change text on my exit button to exit. Why is that font wrong size? There we go. Pardon? It would be in properties. You have to highlight the control or controls you want to change, and it's under font size. It should be alphabetized.
You have to lasso everything.
No, you don't have to lasso anything. No. We're going to start up literally in a matter of seconds, so. Make sure I got it right first. All right, let me start this by asking, did anybody have trouble? Have you all been able to make the form? Yeah? Okay. This is going to be very similar in some ways to what we did even yesterday, in that, maybe this sounds goofy, but I believe in small victories. So in other words, typically when you do this, I'm asking you this question, just guess if you don't know. Which of these is going to have the most code in it, typically? Which would you guess? Yeah, you're right. Why? Because that's where the work's being done, right? In here, again, I want to do the same kind of thing I did before. I want to clear this. 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 And once they're all cleared, boom, I want the cursor to be sitting right there. Does that make sense? So that's what? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines of code. 4 of them are identical in that it'll be the name of the text box, dot, text equals, double quote, right? This we did yesterday, where we brought up the message box. So we know what that is. This is a lot of the code that we did earlier when we did the console one. So I've already created it. Just wanted to make sure that before I put the stuff in here, so just to show you how it looks when it runs. Again, as an example, get rid of this. So if I run the program and I put in the same values that we had before, 11828, and I hit enter, we get 13, or 3 rather, 17, and 8. Okay? Notice that if I run it again and I put in something out of range, Okay, I brought up another error message. Now, one thing I just was thinking about that I forgot to do is I should have removed that. So I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to show you all of the code. All right, again, if you want the code, fine. And I just as soon have you write it, but if you want it, it's not a big thing. So for clear, not clear, I'm sorry, for the error condition like this, if we do all that, boom, but then I also want to clear what's in there, so tote seconds dot text equals, just clear it out. I just made it int, oh, that's text box. Tote seconds dot text, that's what I called it. Text box total seconds. Okay. Dot text. Okay. Let me run it one last time. I'm going to put in something out of whack. I should get an error message. Oh, that was interesting. Okay, try it again. Oh, I put in something non-numeric. When we get into later chapters, you're going to be able to set it up. So if I put in here hello, if you do this right now, you may have tried it, you may not have. Program blows up. Well, we're going to fix that in a later chapter. We're going to have a whole chapter where we talk more about error handling than we have been. But now when I run this, if I put in a number, but it's an out of range number, I get that error message. And now, oh, and I should put the cursor back there too. And I didn't do that. There's actually probably less code that we put in here than what we put into the console program. Okay? So if you come back here, if you have built yours, again, I'm taking for granted, not only did you build yours, whether or not you did the tab order is not that big a thing. Again, it's a nicety for the end user. Remember, if you set the tab order. I set it, this was number 1. I made all 3 of these. You may or may not have done that, but I made all 3 of those read-only. All right? So I set the tab order as 0, 1, 2, 3. The rest don't matter, but I did 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay? That's the way I did it. Also, I set the accept button to calculate, the cancel button to clear. I set my Windows position to the center screen. I've had all my controls where I wanted them, so I highlighted all of them. So they were all highlighted at once, like that. I right mouse clicked and chose lock controls. All right, those are just things that we've done earlier. Then I went back, let's do them in reverse order. So here was my code. You can have it, I don't care. That's the code for the exit. Again, you may have had that from something you did earlier. There are other ways of doing it than this way. All right? But this is the message that comes up. Do you want to exit now? That's the message that comes up. Usually, and I forgot to do it here, but usually I put the title in uppercase. You don't have to. There's nothing that says you have to. All right? I just like it to stand out. And I've got a yes and a no button, and I make this a warning. If we click the yes button, we're going to exit the program. All right? So what should happen here is when we, all right, there's exit program. Do you want to exit now? There's our warning. We say yes, we're gone. Make sense? All right? So there's that. And the clear is exactly what I told you. So look, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 statements that set text boxes to the empty string. What are those? That is setting, come on, this one, this one, this one, and this one to the empty string. All right? And then it's setting the focus right here. And again, the focus means that's where we want our mouse to go. Does all that make sense? All right. And then here is the text for what I did was I put the constants up at the top of my program. So right before I've got my button calculate, I put the constants up there. Technically, The only place I'm using the constants is in this routine. So I could have put them right in there. It wouldn't have been wrong to do that. All right, but what did I use? The same ones we had before. What variables did I use? The same ones we had before. But you'll notice when you look through here, there's no while loop. We did the while loop. We did the while loop when we had the we did the while loop for the console because, again, we had to ask the user, do you want to do it again? You don't have to ask them that here. They'll keep doing it or not doing it. They can sit there and do whatever they want to do, and we're hoping that eventually they'll be smart enough to click the exit button when they want to finish. That makes sense? All right. But when you look in here, what's changed? Our total seconds, I'm grabbing what was in the text box. And this is a little confusing to most people because it's an int, and this says convert.toInt32. What that means is it's a 32-bit integer. That's a normal size. All right? I wish they just had convert to int and they made it that, but they didn't. They meaning Microsoft. Okay? Now, this is why I showed you that before, because now look, we do use an if. I'll give you this. But I just want to go over the text with you and to make sure that you get it. So now, this we did before as a while, right? Because you were the one entering information. But now, the information has been entered already. So if it's out of range, we're just going to show you a dialog box that says, hey, it's got to be between this and this. And notice what I did. I didn't say total seconds must be between 1 and 86,400. I literally plopped in there those constants. You don't have to do that, but it makes it run a little nicer. Right? Yes. When you put something in double quotes, it means it's a string. For lack of better words, you're telling it to print like that verbatim. Okay? And after we do that, this was a bad thing. So we go and we clear out whatever they put in, and we put the cursor right back there. And pardon my French, this means get the hell out. You're done with that routine. Now notice it says return, just the word return. And notice up here it says void. That means that this routine is void of a return. There is none. In virtually every programming language, when you don't want to return anything, you make what's called the return type like this, void. If I wanted to return an integer, this would have been private int. If I wanted to return a string, it would have been private string, etc. Then I would have had to have put a value here. So if I get down to here, just like we saw before, I put in a valid value. This should look familiar to you because this is the exact same code that I took from the other program. So the smarts, whatever you want to call it, are the same for the two programs. All right? And then, now that I figured them out, now this goes and it stuffs them all back into the appropriate text boxes. All right? Now this is going to be 2 pages when I print it out. I'm going to throw a couple comments in here. All right? And then I'm going to print it out and give them to you. What I would like you to do for the rest of the period, you're not turning it in. But what I'd like you to try to do for the rest of the period is see if first, A, you can write number 7, the make change console. Both. Do it first as a console, and then do number 8, the make change GUI. You have basically about an hour and 40 minutes, hour and 50 minutes, I guess. Take a break when you need to take a break. It's totally fine. All right? Tomorrow when we start up, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do both these number 7 and number 8 right in front of you. That's how we're going to start. All right? And then we will look at 9 and 10. And tomorrow I'll go over chapter 3. I think it's important that you get some time to just sit there and do some stuff yourselves. Now you might look at this, all right? You might look at this and say, well, you know what? Technically, Jeff, we haven't done anything yet. You've given us a bunch of code. We typed it in. It's more than that. It really and truly is. All right? Just to give you a little bit of a parallel. This kid she started up swimming lessons again last Saturday. All right? She's not happy unless Grandma and Grandpa come and watch her. But the point is, usually her mom goes, but her mom had something else going on. She was there, but she couldn't get wet. She had to go to a wedding in the afternoon. And so her dad went in the water with her. Okay? Now, one of the things they were starting to do is they're starting to tell the kids to kick. All right? Now, if her dad wasn't holding her, the water's not deep. She can stand in it, okay? But if she laid on her back and her dad wasn't holding her, she could kick till the cows come home, as they say. She'd probably fall in. Would you agree? So her dad is balancing her, but she's learning to kick. That's what we're doing right now. All right? I mean, you've been in here 3 days. There's no way in heck, especially the new people, I could say, hey, you understand every bit of this, right? Hey, you could sit there and do this, even if you didn't have the book, even if you didn't have any code. You could just do it from scratch, right? I don't think so. If I was in your situation, I couldn't. Now, with the other two people, I don't know where they stand with that. But again, the way that you learn this stuff is to do this stuff. That's the only way you're going to learn it. So again, I'm going to take all the code. Oops, that's good. And there's 86 lines, so like I said, it'll actually print over 2 pages. I'm going to copy it to the clipboard. Like I said, first I will add some more comments so you know what's going on here. All right? And then I'm going to print you out a copy. So if you need to take a break now, probably would be a good time. All right? This is the end of what I'm going to tape for today because I'm going to just give you some time to work. All right? And I'm supposed to tell you too, just so you know. This is not Jeff's policy. This is Rankin's policy. If you walk out of here, let's say I give you a break and I say you get 15 minutes. All right, so it's 10:10. And Angie comes back and it's 11 o'clock. Well, that's more minutes than she's supposed to take. Okay? You all get that. Technically, if I give you a 15-minute break and you're gone more than that, all right, I'm supposed to change your attendance from present to absent. It's not my rule. It's a Rankin rule. If I say you have a 10-minute break and you come back 20 minutes later, all right, so you come back with a 10-minute, I would probably change it to like a tardy. You understand what I'm saying? Those are Rankin rules. I'm not saying, hey, those are Rankin rules. Do you like them? It doesn't matter because they're not mine. They're Rankin's. All right? We had an occasion last semester. I'm not putting her on the spot. Maya got sick during class once, remember? She was here most of the class. She came up to me around 11 and she didn't look good. She'd already been in the bathroom throwing up. She's like, I don't think I can stay here anymore. I'm trying to, but I can't. I got it. But I told her, I said, I've got to change your attendance to absent. It's not that I want to do that, but Charles has the ability to go in and look at everything that I put in there. And he notices when people walk by his room. Now, I'm not saying everybody, but most everybody. And if he were to notice that she left and he looked and he'd say, well, why did she leave? And I say, she got sick. He would immediately pull up the attendance and say, why didn't you change your attendance to absent? Right? Because that's how prickly they are about things around here. Again, I'm not saying that's how they are. Isn't that great? You might think it really stinks, but they're just rules. Now, the last 2 days, he's been kind of upset because that class that he's got in there, he's got the new people that you saw, plus he's got a bunch of other people because they can take stuff in different timing. Many of their classes are 40 days as opposed to 80 like ours. All right, so he's got first and second semester people. None of his first year people were out of compliance, but 6 of his second semester people were. They didn't have their shirts tucked in, they didn't have their hair combed, etc. All right, so he was telling me about that. He's like, they ought to know better. But we're supposed to give, especially the new people, a break the first week. All right. And then after that, if you're out of compliance, you came in, was that yesterday or today? When Dominic came in, I said, hey, just so you know, your shirt's untucked. And he was like, he started tucking in. I said, it's okay. But once class starts, make sure it's tucked in. Okay?
So the rules really only apply to
Well, I mean, if you came in here, all right, and let's just say you had, I don't know, I can't even give you a great example. But if you came in here and you looked virtually terrible, all right, then somebody might say something. We had a guy, this is no joke, and I maybe have told you guys this before. A guy named Eric who was here about 3 or 4 years ago. And Eric's a nice guy. He was actually doing well in the class. But he didn't like rules. So he came in one day, and I didn't even notice him. But Charles walked in right after him. And he said, hey, Eric, how you doing? And Eric didn't even know who Charles was. He goes, I'm okay. How are you? He said, I'm fine. He said, did you have a nice weekend? He's like, yeah. Did you go out last night? And he goes, no. Why? And he goes, I noticed you didn't shave this morning. He goes, oh, yeah, I forgot to. And he goes, Charles literally pulls out of his pocket a can of shaving cream and a razor. He goes, that's okay. You can shave now. He was not kidding. How do I know that? Because Eric said, are you kidding? And he goes, nope. 5 minutes. I want to come back here. I want to look at you. Okay? He did it again about a week later. Same kind of thing happened, but Charles was a little more stern. He did it a third time. He said, this is a problem. We can't have this anymore. All right? He ended up dropping after that. He spouted out a few F-bombs and stuff and on his way out. The bad thing was he was doing fine in the class. He just even said, I don't want to listen to your rules. Okay? As the saying goes, I mean, it is what it is. I'm not saying, hey, this is great. Do you like it or do you hate it? It's just, I have to follow the same rules. There was one day when I came in here and I ended up driving back home again, which for me isn't that bad. It's about 15 minutes. I forgot a belt. And I didn't realize it. And he even told me, he said, well, I would have had one. And I said, Charles, your belt may not have fit me. But he said, yeah, that could be true. But he said, you see a student who comes in here, they don't have a belt on. I don't want to sit there and have to look at your belts. You know, it could get to a point, if it gets that bad, I've heard this before, it could get to a point where they would say, okay, when you come in the morning, everybody has to stand up and I have to walk up and down the aisles. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be a cop. Plus, it wastes 5 minutes of time. All right? And it might not sound like much, but say 5 minutes. So in a week, that's 25 minutes, you know, almost a half an hour, etc. That is a waste. Plus, if somebody is out of compliance, then I got to make an example of them in front of everybody else. I don't want to do that. I don't think there's anyone here who wants to do that.
So I have a question. I don't know, you don't need to do it. Can you not copy it?
Nope. Well, it depends. The answer technically is yes, but they can't have where they have the extra buttons, like the little ribbed kind of buttons. I don't know if you know what I mean. Okay? And if you're not sure, I'd say wear them. All right? And if Ms. Bruggeman sees them and says they're out of compliance, or Charles does, he'll tell you. Now, it's funny. Ms. Bruggeman came in and walked in my classroom last semester, 12 or 13 weeks in the classroom. She just walked in, which is fine. Anybody's welcome. But she walked in, she said, hello. She walked up and down the aisles. I got 10 people or 11 people in there. Didn't say a word other than that. You know, she just walked out. And I thought, okay, I'm in trouble. I did something wrong, but I had no idea what it was. So I saw her about an hour later. I said, did I do something wrong? She said, no. I said, well, you were in. She said, yeah. She said, you had 2 people out of compliance. All right, I said, okay. She said, one of them didn't have his shirt tucked in, and the other one was Devin, who was actually graduated last December. He said his pants were out of compliance. They were khakis, but like I said, they have those real little things on, like studs or whatever you'd call them. He said he's out of compliance. So I told him that. Devin started laughing. And I said, what's so funny? He goes, I have 1 pair of pants that I've worn here for 2 years. Nobody's ever said a word. He said, I have 2 shirts. They're both gray. And he said, and I said, well, I've told you what Ms. Bruggeman said. And he said, what happens if she catches me again? And I said, next time she'll talk to you. He goes, okay, I'll wait for that. So he just kept wearing the same pants. Nobody ever said another word. So it varies.
That's what I did for my nose piercing, because I
Mhm.